We're doing Isha. We're doing Isha, inshallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وأن عليا حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله صلاة العشاء. This is صلاة العشاء إن شاء الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم ارزقنا توفيق الطاعة وبعد المعصية. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. سبحان الله والحمد لله الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. شكرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين. السلام على 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم يا الله. All right. Let's go ahead and sit down. Ajo. All right. All right. I hope everyone is doing well. All right, one loud salawat, please. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hope everyone is doing well, inshallah. Welcome to our first family fun night. It has been a very long journey to get here. Because to do a family fun night, you need a proper facility. And if you guys remember where we used to be, those are not fun nights, right? Where we used to. So alhamdulillah, community has come a very long way. And hopefully we can use this facility for many years to have our community, have a place to come, gather, inshallah, spend time together. Today's event, inshallah, for the adults is chai with sheikh. Right now it's sheikh, later on it's going to be chai. Chai maybe come later, because I don't think we can bring chai in here. We cannot bring chai in here, unfortunately. So I'm having a drink, but this has no color. So it's like water. That's why I'm allowed to have it, okay? And you guys can have water too. All right. So what we're going to do, inshallah, is I'm going to do a quick presentation on non-religious holidays. This debate gets very heated, especially if you're online. You can leave them, let them go around. It's okay. Huh? Oh, kids camp is open. Should I ask her if she's registered? All right. So this is a big debate. It takes place every time around Thanksgiving time. It comes up. Halloween comes up a lot. Christmas, forget about that. You get a million questions about this topic, yeah? And so for those who remember, we did a talk on this. We did a lecture on this, and I can't remember what the incident was or what the wilada or the shahada was, but we did one on engaging with non-religious customs and holidays. I think it was about 6 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. During the Ashra, I was, of course, visiting London, and over there I did this lecture as well. And the president of the Jamaat over there came to me afterwards, and he was very thankful, and he said, this is a very important topic. It's one that requires nuance to discuss it. It's not an easy thing to tackle. And so he thought that this was a very important topic, right? Even after I did the lecture over there, I got a lot of different questions from community members. Some of them asked to have like a workshop around this topic. And so, inshallah, this is going to become part of a different course that we're planning to do later on down the road, inshallah. But when non-religious holidays come around, there's big debate. So I'll start from here. Typically, you have two different approaches when it comes to this issue, and they're both extremes, okay? So the first approach you have on this issue is, if you were to celebrate these non-religious holidays, so think of Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, maybe Valentine's Day, whatever it is, yeah? The first approach is the approach of this guy, right? So you're worse than a mushrik, right? And if you go on social media and you see the way people react on this debate, you actually find this is not, I mean, I'm joking about it, but there's actually people who see things this way. So if you tell them, hey, I know someone, they put up a Christmas tree in their house, for example. Say, kufr, shirk, right? And this is one approach. Unfortunately, they have beards that are usually very long and very not well trimmed either, yes? Usually. All right. Then there's another approach. This is the second approach. The second approach is the approach of people who will actually say, MashaAllah, you are so progressive. You're amazing. You are making sure you don't raise your child in a bubble. You are making sure you're raising your child with the culture of the times. The day and age that we live in, our children have to be able to celebrate these things. What are they going to do if they go to school the next day and their classmates have celebrated this holiday and they haven't celebrated this holiday? What are they going to do then? How are they going to be a part of the conversation if their friends are talking about this? They're saying the night before or last night we went out and had this much fun. And they're not going to have anything to talk about. Okay, so two different approaches, two very extreme approaches, yes? One will tell you you're doing amazing, it's the best thing you can possibly do. The other one, which is a more scary one, will tell you, no, 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 this is like a form of shirk. Like, what are you even talking about? So, what is Islam's opinion and approach when it comes to this issue? So, Islam's opinion falls somewhere in between these two approaches. So we're going to have a little bit of a nuanced approach. So the conclusion from today's session is going to be a conclusion where if someone came up to you and said, hey, do you celebrate this? You're not going to be able to answer as a yes or no. So that's the bad news. The bad news is when you walk out of this session today, you're not, if someone comes up to you and says, hey, do you guys celebrate Halloween? You're not going to be able to just say yes or no. If someone says, are you going to celebrate Thanksgiving? You're not going to be able to just say yes or no. Right? Christmas, there's more detail. There's more nuance to the discussion. Yes? So Islam's approach is neither of these. It falls somewhere in between. So now I'm going to go one step further in the discussion. Okay. So the first thing we have to discuss is celebrating these holidays. Is it haram? Do we have clear guidelines that say, listen, this falls under a red line in Islam, that you can absolutely not engage in this holiday? What I'm saying is politically incorrect in Maulana world, okay? In Maulana world, there are times where you'll speak to scholars. Some scholars will tell you certain holidays are haram to engage in, okay? So I'm being 100% clear. This is something that there are differences of opinion on. This is my take, okay? This is my understanding that I'm going to be explaining. So what are the elements that can potentially make any celebration haram? Well, there's two main principles. Principle number one, any celebration that resembles practices of another faith. So Halloween is a difficult case to make. Let's say Christmas, for example. So there are people, they celebrate Christmas just because it's Christmas. You know, it's a fun thing, and you know, the kids get some gifts, and then we go see some lights. Maybe we have a tree up, brings a whole vibe to it, and it's a nice environment, nice atmosphere, and that's it. Then there are Christians who celebrate Christmas. And I don't know if you've seen around the signs they put up nowadays, or the bumper stickers. They say, bring back, what is it, bring back Christ, or something like that. Put Christ back in Christmas, or something like this, yes? They say this celebration has become too secular. This was supposed to be a religious holiday. Now it's just become commercialized, and, you know, there's no mention of Christ in it. So they actually object to this. So there's two different ways you can celebrate this. You can celebrate it in a secular way. You can celebrate it, as a religious holiday. Now, our scholars will tell you across the board, they'll tell you if you celebrate it in a way that people see it and say, oh, he's doing it the way a Christian would do it. Yes? Not just as a normal person. Christian. They would tell you this is definitely what? Haram. It's definitely problematic. Icons of other faiths, you and I are not allowed to engage with. Yes? That's why in our books of fiqh, they have, for example, what is your duty when you come across, let's say someone is making different crosses. Now, this is for back in the day, of course, yes? What's your duty? What should you do with those crosses? Are you allowed to sell and buy those crosses? They'll tell you, no, you're not allowed to do that. Why? Because if you're selling those crosses or buying them for people who are actually going to believe in it, yes, they'll tell you it's a problem. Now, sometimes you might buy a cross, or let's say, for example, you buy, those little idols they have, yeah? The little, I don't know if it's the Buddha or whatever it is, right? You know, the chubby, I don't know if it's a god or what that thing is, right? Anyways, sometimes you find those. Someone might buy it and say, okay, I'm not worshiping it or anything. I'm going to put it in a museum or whatever. We're just going to put it there because it looks nice, or it's a separate discussion. But if I'm buying and selling because people are going to use to worship, all the scholars tell you what? It's not possible. So any way, any holiday that I celebrate that is attributed to another faith. So for example, a lot of people, when they put up their trees, they have a cross on top of it. Right? Or you might have seen the star on top of the Christmas tree. That star has a religious background to it, right? Which is supposed to represent the star that certain individuals follow to come to that house where Isa alayhi salam was born per the Gospels, okay? And of course they say that they didn't have room in the house, and so they were in a different part of that, think about it like as a motel, okay? They didn't really have room. All the rooms were full and all of that kind of stuff. So Mary was forced to go into another part of that facility or that area. Okay, so that is definitely haram. Number 2, any celebration that involves sin. So I put together a Christmas party and people are mixing. I put together a party and there's haram music playing. Definitely what? Definitely haram. The problem is, typically the celebrations we deal with, we're not dealing with any of these. You like this? Yeah? We're not usually dealing with any of these. So now we're going to go one step further. So first question, guys, was what? Is it haram? The answer to this, anytime you have fiqhi question, the answer should be very simple and straightforward. Yes or no? Yes, this is how fiqh works. The whole point of fiqh is that so that you don't have to have a 30-minute philosophical discussion about something. Say, is it haram? Not haram. Fiqh is supposed to be straightforward, easy, and so on and so forth, yes? Okay, but then we go to the next step, which is what? The next step to remember is that though it may not be haram, there are things that can affect our Islamic identity. So, making sure that your Islamic identity is not affected is a really big deal. Why? Because my children, my household, if they want to be able to practice their faith, they have to come back to this identity. This identity has to be strong for them, okay? If that identity becomes weak, it's going to become a lot more difficult for them to relate to their faith. So if Islam comes and tells them, listen, when you reach this age, you have to wear hijab, for example, if their Islamic identity is not that strong, I've made things more difficult for them, yes? If they're growing up in school and all of a sudden all the other kids are doing something else and I tell them, no, you have to pray 5 times a day. Well, what's going to be able to help them in these moments? Islamic identity is what's going to be able to help them in these moments. So Islam has also emphasized Islamic identity. All right. We have a weird feature here. It's like, it stopped, huh? Okay, hopefully it stopped. So for example, someone says, well, Maulana, what's this Islamic identity thing? Either it's haram or it's not haram. No, Islamic identity is very important. That's why you're sitting here right now. If someone asks you, why did you come here? Why aren't you going out to hang out at some restaurant, for example? It's not haram, restaurant. You say, no, we're going to hang out at the masjid. Why the masjid? Why not somewhere else? The fact that you're here tonight is in and of itself proof that Islamic identity matters to you. Because you know that the conversations you have in a place like this is different from the conversations you would have elsewhere. The values that are promoted here are different. The friends that my children find here are different, and so on and so forth. The list goes on and on. The very fact that you're here right now shows what's important for you. Islamic identity is important for you. Otherwise, there's 100 other places where it's not haram to gather right now. But you're not gathering over there. You're gathering over here. So Islamic identity is very important. Okay. Let us understand how we build Islamic identity. This slide here, guys, inshallah, is going to be a full lecture whenever I have a chance, inshallah, to prepare that lecture before Imam Mahdi returns, inshallah. We're going to do a lecture on this, Islamic identity. Why? Because there's 2 main elements of Islamic identity. Someone says, well, how am I supposed to build Islamic identity for my children? By the way, everything we say here, children, applies to adults too. You will see that the elements we go through do not only affect children. This is why this is not a youth session. It affects adults too. Okay, I can tell you 100% it affects adults, and I'll give you some stories about that as well. Yeah? So I want to build Islamic identity for myself. Of course, when it comes to children, it's more urgent, of course. It's a more serious issue. But even myself. So how do I do that? Well, there's 2 elements to Islamic identity. First element has to do with atmosphere. Where you go, where you come, who you spend time with, atmosphere. And one of the biggest mistakes that we make as Muslims is assuming that the atmosphere we breathe in has very little impact on us. And this is not true. In other words, we are a bigger result and product of the environments that we live in than we think. The average Muslim thinks, you know, I live in this society, people do some wrong things, it doesn't affect me. I'm living my life over here. No, that's not the case. It's affecting them. It's affecting you and me. Whether we know it or we don't know it, it's affecting us. Now, sometimes because I'm exposing myself fully, it affects us 100%, sometimes in smaller ways. But it is affecting us, and it's affecting us deeply. One of the best places that you see that this atmosphere, okay, and I'm going to break down what the atmosphere is, by the way, is affecting us is on the topic of gender roles. Gender roles is a big problem for us. Why is it a big problem for us? It's a big problem for us because we are products of the environment that we are breathing in and growing up in. And it's going to be a bigger problem for the next generation. Okay? And a lot of couples I talk to, the issues they deal with is actually, if you go back to the core, a lot of it has to do with they've gotten gender roles wrong. Okay? Now, gender roles is a long topic and a separate topic. So number one element of Islamic identity, the atmosphere you live in, the environment you breathe in, the culture you surround yourself with. Don't be that guy who thinks, oh, no, I watched this movie, but what happens in the movie doesn't impact me. No, that's what you're thinking. It does impact you. An adult to a certain extent, a child even more. But even the adult is impacted by it. Number two, second element of Islamic identity is knowledge and the things that help with rational decision making. These are the arguments, this is the knowledge. Yeah, when you come to a lecture, there is an inspirational aspect of it and then there's a knowledge aspect of it. Second element of Islamic identity is what? Knowledge. So my child is growing up, am I answering the questions that he has? Am I providing the proper answers? When he has questions, do I suppress it? Do I tell him, look, be quiet, don't ask this question? Or do I tell him, no, this is a good question, let's go figure out what the answer is? So this is elements number two, okay? Number one, number two. I'm going to go into number one a little bit more. Why? Because holidays falls under number one. The holidays that I engage in and the culture I build around myself is going to fall under number one. So what else falls under number one? Friends and relatives. That builds the atmosphere around you. Movies builds the atmosphere around you. Environments you put yourself in builds the atmosphere around you. Heroes. Yeah? Why do you think action figures sell so much? Action figures sell because they're heroes for kids. Your child building a connection with a particular hero is building his atmosphere. So there are children like Hani here. He knows who Abul Fadl Abbas is. Do you know who Abul Fadl Abbas is? Yeah, there you go. He's nodding his head. Okay? If it's a child who's his age in society, you know who he's going to know as his hero? Not Abul Fadl Abbas. It's probably going to be Spider-Man, Batman, these kinds of things, right? There you go. So, these are all things that build their culture, build their atmosphere. Part of that, holidays and customs. So guys, holidays are part of a bigger puzzle. Don't look at it as just, Molana, we just went here and did this. No, we're looking at a huge puzzle. Holidays is maybe 20% of the discussion. Then comes all these other elements that build culture around you, that build your atmosphere. What else is there? Social media and content. Okay, so these are the two elements, guys, that build Islamic identity. Typically, our Islamic centers do a terrible job with both of these. With both of these, we heavily struggle. As in, Islamic centers typically don't build an atmosphere that kids want to be around and want to spend time in. And number two, usually, they don't provide a lot of knowledge. Yes, it's a lot of ritual, not a lot of knowledge. So these are things that we have to work on. These are things we have to, the struggles of our centers are these two. These are what we have to work on, inshallah. Okay, so building that atmosphere, a big part of it is number 5, the holidays and customs that I engage in. Okay, so Islam has 2 more principles for you to keep in mind when you engage in these holidays and in these customs. So first step was, is it haram? We said 99% of the time it's not haram, so we can set that aside. Yes? But beyond that, Islam also has two more principles that you have to ask yourself with regards to those things, yes? Number one, does the holiday push the wrong values in my household? There are some holidays that are like that. And so I don't want to be pushing those and emphasizing those holidays in my household. Again, see holidays as part of a much bigger puzzle. So my child is being exposed to movies. He's being exposed to advertisements. He's being exposed to non-religious culture. When I say non-religious culture, doesn't mean evil things, by the way, necessarily. No, it's just secular culture. He's being exposed to all these things. He has friends who don't have the lifestyle that he has, right? He already has customs and practices in school that are not part of his religious upbringing. So now I'm adding another piece to this puzzle. Don't just look at it in a vacuum. Oh, it's just a holiday. No. It's part of a much bigger puzzle, okay? Holiday is one piece of this puzzle. Okay, so first thing I have to ask myself, does it push the wrong values in my house? And then principle number two, has it become the primary culture in my house? Okay, so I'm going to go into number one a little bit more. The thing is, not all holidays are equal. Not all holidays are the same. So, Valentine's Day and Father's Day are both non-religious holidays, yes? Technically, they're both bid'ah, yes? They're both bid'ah. All right. But do they push the same values? No, it's a world of difference between them. Bid'ah hasana. One of them is bid'ah hasana. All right. Thanksgiving and Christmas, do they push the same values? No, not necessarily. Thanksgiving, for most people, with, of course, that dark history that Thanksgiving has for indigenous people, I'm setting that aside, yes, for the sake of our discussion. Christmas is a lot more commercialized. Christmas is about what? It's about spending a lot of money, okay? Thanksgiving is about what? When people say Thanksgiving, what's the typical way that people remember Thanksgiving? They say, oh, it's going to be really awkward at the Thanksgiving table. Thanksgiving table. Why? Because Thanksgiving is a what? It's more about a gathering. We're going to come together as a family, right? That's why I say it's going to be awkward. Because your cousin is going to be there, and fulan is going to be there, fulan is going to be there. It's going to be difficult. So, first of all, not all holidays are equal. So I'm going back to the previous slide, yeah? First question I have to ask. This holiday that we're engaging in, what values is it pushing in my household? This is a valid question, okay? So far, I think most people would come forward with us up until here. This last point I'm going to make is probably the added part that I think most people don't pay attention to, okay? So now imagine I have a holiday. It's not haram, and it's not necessarily pushing wrong values. Okay, Valentine's Day is pushing the wrong values for my child. This is very clear. I don't have to explain this. But let's say a holiday is not even doing that. So Thanksgiving would probably be a good example of this. Okay, so Molana, what's the problem? Thanksgiving? Yes? Now someone might even throw in Halloween there, but Halloween has other things. You know, the night we did Trick or Gin here, yeah, for the middle schoolers, I was pulling in from, what's the street? Main? Is it Main? Josie. I think Josie goes up and then turns into Main or something. This is very complicated. Okay. So I was pulling in from Josie, and I saw a bunch of high schoolers going out trick-or-treating. Okay. So everyone's dressed up, right? But not everyone's dressed up appropriately. So I'm not going to go into detail, right? Not everyone's dressed up appropriately. It's not appropriate. Why is my 12-year-old being taught at that age that, yeah, it's okay for you to dress like this? So even Halloween, there's some things, parts of it that we have a problem with. But I'm setting that aside. It's not haram, a holiday, and it's not necessarily pushing the wrong values either. So you say, okay, what's the problem? Let's go for it. For the most part, it's not a problem, but there's one more element we have to pay attention to. One more element we have to pay attention to. And that is principle number 2 here. I can never allow non-Islamic culture to become the primary culture in my household. To become the primary culture in my household. On a secondary level, it's okay. On a secondary level, it's okay. Primary culture? No, Islam did not intend for non-Islamic culture to become the primary culture in my household. Why is this? Go look at the life of the Prophet. Go look at the life of the Imams. What type of culture became primary in their households? So you know the Arab, they also had their non-religious culture. Yes? And we know the Prophet engaged with that culture. He didn't come in and say, no, we're not doing this anymore. No, we're not doing that anymore. No, he didn't do that. Yes? But when you look at the life of the Prophet, how many elements of Arab culture, non-religious Arab culture do you find in his life versus elements that Islam brought into the picture? You find those other elements were always secondary for him. They were not primary. This is the mistake that most parents make. So they bring secular culture, not evil culture, secular culture into the household. And what they do as part of that is the connection of their children and by extension themselves becomes a little bit weaker to the faith. A little bit weaker to the faith. So now when I tell my child, oh, we have to go and act on this religious duty, it's that much more difficult for him to engage in. Now you say, oh, but Maulana, it's just a holiday. No, no, no. This is part of a big puzzle. You're reinforcing that secular culture in 50 different ways. One of them is these holidays. There's a lot of other ways too. The phone that he has is pushing that culture every single day. Now, phones and so on and so forth, some of these we can distance our children from, sometimes we can't distance our children from them, right? It's a little bit of a complicated situation there. So you're already agreeing that my child to a certain extent is already being exposed to some of these elements. Now I'm adding one more piece to this. So think about it this way, like you're this poor child of mine in a world where his faith is already under attack, by the way. Now I'm adding cultural baggage to him. There's already 20 things that he's carrying as cultural baggage. Now I'm adding holidays too. And then there's customs too. And then there's prom too. And then there's this too. And then there's a whole culture. This is just one small piece of it. Yes? So Islam brought these elements that were supposed to become part of our culture. Islam said, these are the things I want it to become primary for you. Primary for you. The basic example, and this again goes back to the point I made already. Coming to the masjid. Why are you even sitting here right now? It's not Jummah. It's not wajib to be here. You're here because you know Islam wanted this to be part of your lifestyle. Right? So Islam wanted this to be primary. The recitation of Quran, salat, du'as. You know, people think, we have people in the community, not in our community, in any community. They think every du'a that Ahl Bayt ever said we have to recite. You know? What they don't realize is when the 6th Imam told his companion, recite this du'a, and then the 8th Imam was asked the same question, and he told another companion, recite this du'a, technically each Imam told each person to recite one du'a. If you think about it. Yes? He didn't come, the 8th Imam didn't come and say, here's your list. Of course, we came later, scholars came later, and they should. They came and they said, oh, here's the full list. But every one of the companions was told how many of this list. Maybe 1, 2, 5, whatever. You know, whatever is feasible for them. But the Ahl Bayt did want this to be part of our culture. You understand what I'm saying? It's not that you're supposed to do every single one of them. But they wanted dua to be part of your culture. So for example, I come sit in the car. Yes? Most people, what do? They turn on something. Well, if I want to build Islamic culture in my household, I'm going to come sit in the car, recite a short dua. So my household now understands these are culture building. Yes? We enter into the house, maybe there's a short dua. Now again, these are just examples. Don't sit there. I don't want anyone to go home at night and say, you heard what Maulana said, when we come in the house we have to recite this dua, right? No. They gave us so many options so that 20% of it, 30% of it makes its way into our culture. Yes? They said, you're going to eat, recite this dua. They didn't mean every single thing you do, say it. No, they said, some of this has to become what? Part of your culture. What else? Adhkar, dhikr. Again, people think we have to do all of it. No, you don't have to do all of it. But it needs to become part of your culture. Yes? I picked up on a kid a couple of days ago. Their parents asked me to pick them up. Okay? So I picked them up. And I said, how was school? He said, good, alhamdulillah. Okay? Now, when a child says good, alhamdulillah, does that mean, mashallah, his future is guaranteed? No, it doesn't mean any of this. It means what? It means this is becoming his culture. See, this is a big deal. In some houses, these are just examples I'm giving. I don't want you to guys get bogged down on the details, right? This is an example. In some houses, they sneeze. And someone says, God bless you. Is that a bad thing? No, it's a really good thing. In some houses, someone sneezes, right? And then someone says, Alhamdulillah, yarhamukallah. Okay, it's a difference. Okay? Now, you say, oh, but it's just one word. Yeah, that's part of a much bigger puzzle, though. You understand? What are the other elements that Islam wanted to put as part of our Islamic culture? The culture of Hajj, the culture of ziyarah, visiting relatives. As part of that is also what? Islamic holidays. Is it wajib to come and attend the Eid, for example? No, not technically. Yes? But you should wake up your children 7 o'clock in the morning and put on clothes. No, I'm just kidding. But it's part of building culture. That's why it's important. Yes? Dress code is part of our Islamic culture. Respecting elders and their wisdom that they carry. You know, this is an element that's missing in Western culture. The idea that an elder might know better than you. Politically incorrect. What do you mean? I know better. No, you don't know better. Now, maybe sometimes yes or no, but generally speaking, the person who has experience is going to do what? He's going to know better. But the culture we're being brought up in, we're being taught the opposites. Our children being taught the opposites. So this is also part of Islamic culture. So all of these elements the Prophet brought for us, and this list continues, yeah? If I gave you guys the opportunity to continue, you can continue on this list, yeah? They wanted all of this to be primary culture for us. Now, if you make this stuff primary in your household, and if I make it primary in my household, then at a secondary level, my child can do what? He can engage with non-religious customs too. It's okay. He's going to know what Halloween is. He's going to know what Christmas is. So maybe he likes to go see the lights. It's not the end of the world. But I always have to make sure that's what? Secondary. Secondary. That's not your primary culture. You understand? At a secondary level, in a limited fashion, it's okay. So people always say, Molana, if it's secondary, but I don't want to raise my child in a bubble. Huh? Those days are over. Khatam. Over. I'll give you a prize if you can raise your child in a bubble. I'll put money on it, but it's haram. You can't. Those days are over. Molana, I want to make sure when he goes to school, he doesn't feel left out. Baba, trust me, he's not going to feel left out. He knows a lot more than you think he knows. Okay? So this is the reality that we're dealing with, guys. This is the reality of the world now. Okay? This is what our children are dealing with. Now, we laugh at this, of course, yeah? But give your phone to your child, he'll tell you how to use all the features better than you. Right? He said, Baba, you're doing it wrong. This is the world we live in. The bubble thing was, yeah, when we were kids, you know, remember the 90s? Those were when the bubble, you could do the bubble. The bubble is over. The moment this child has a phone, there is no more bubble anymore. Yes? So, our biggest concern in today's day and age is how much I expose my child to non-religious culture and how much I make Islamic culture primary culture. That should be my main focus, my main concern, my main worry. Yes? The bubble thing, even if you wanted to, you're not going to be able to pull that off anymore. So it's really not something we have to worry about anymore. Yes? And number one. Number two, the bubble thing, by the way, because sometimes people say, oh, I know this person, he raises children like this, but they're so close-minded. They don't even know how to interact with people. That's a separate thing. That's an extreme. You don't want to do it in that extreme way. You don't do it in that extreme way. But if you do it in a moderate way, no, your children, I was speaking to one person. I said, listen, why don't you put your child in this program, for example? I said, well, I want to make sure that when my child goes to college, he can hold a conversation with other people. I said, trust me, he's going to be able to hold a conversation better than you. These are children who are growing up here. They're not immigrants like us, yes? They born and raised here, okay? They will be able to converse 10 times better than any of us was able to, right? So they'll be able to do that very well. This is not the worry I'm supposed to have, okay? So, your children can always engage with non-religious practices, holidays, in a limited and secondary fashion. But let them always know that it's secondary, okay? So before I open up to Q&A on questions can be on this topic or on other topics as well. Simple answer. I'm going to summarize. Yeah, simply. Someone comes to you and says, listen, we're going to take the kids out for trick-or-treating. Can Muhammad come with us? Can Ali come with us? Can Zahra come with us? Whatever, right? The simple answer to this is that, yeah, we don't think it's haram, but we try not to push this too much in our household. That's it, right? We keep it to in a limited fashion. So in the house, when it comes up, I don't say, oh, yes, Halloween is coming around. Yes, you're going to have so much fun. Actually, your friends are going. No, we don't do this. They will know what Halloween is. They will know very well what people do on Halloween. They're going to know all this stuff. You don't have to worry about that. We don't push it too much, yeah? Here in our Sunday school, the kids come, they bring up this stuff. We say, listen, I mean, it's not something we want to push, okay? Not every family is different, of course, but we're not going to push it. We're not going to keep emphasizing it. Thing is, guys, you guys think our children are walking into an equal battle. They're not walking into an equal battle. They're walking into a battle where one side is already heavily emphasized, which is secular culture. And then you're bringing this Islamic culture. And you're saying, oh, well, we should have both. But the other one is already being emphasized 24/7 for them. If they go they're down on the highway they're driving. They're on their phone. All these advertisements pop up. They're being exposed to this anyways. That's going to happen anyways. You don't have to worry about that side. You have to worry about this side. You have to worry about making Islamic culture their primary culture. And inshallah, they'll grow up in a very moderate way. They'll understand Christmas is not, oh my God, like this dude who was saying you're worse than mushrik, yeah? Oh my God, a Christmas tree. No, you don't have to react like that either. Yeah, it's secular culture. We don't push it a lot. But sure, if my child knows what Christmas is, he knows what Christmas is. So you have to have a very chill approach to this issue, right? All right, so that brings today's presentation to an end. All right, any questions? We can do questions on this topic, or we can do questions on other topics as well. Or are you just tired of me? Go for it.
I think I agree with everything you said. But for kids growing up nowadays, especially because, our parents don't always have the strongest deen themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you do all your salah, all your du'as, everything, Islamic activities are still a marginal fraction of your hours.
Definitely.
So how do you actually create that air when it is a smaller part of the day, just time?
Listen, these are the elements. So his question is, even if you do your wajibat, still Islamic culture is going to be a small part of your life. So how do you build that atmosphere? Whatever these elements are, you have to try to add to these. So who are the friends that I'm spending time with? For families, which families are you spending time with? Who are you going to go? So you're going to take your kids over to this person's house. So do they have the same culture as you, or close to the same culture as you? Yeah. What type of content am I watching? See, this is the thing I was saying. Adults think it doesn't have an impact on them. No, that thing you're watching on Netflix, you're adults. It has an impact on you. You have to understand this. Don't think it doesn't have an impact on you. This country is affecting and impacting the culture of 8 billion people through these movies. And then you're sitting here saying, no, it has no impact on me. Like, what are you talking about? This is the power of media. So to answer your question, every single one of these, you take it up a notch. What's popping up on my social media, right? What does my usage look like? Holidays, customs, these are all things. And sometimes, as a family, you might have to add a custom of your own. You have to do like a small bid'ah hasana, yeah? To add a custom of your own, yeah? Like some families, they have particular customs built around certain religious things. Whatever works for your family, yes? My father, he used to do ice cream after Fajr. If you woke up for Fajr, should we do this? It sounds like you guys really Some of these sisters were like, wow, we should wake up for Fajr. Right? That's the thing. It's a bid'ah hasana, yeah? Like, if you wake up, you can go, you can have ice cream, for example. Whatever it is. But every family has to, you have to, as a parent, you have to look at your family and say, how can I build this culture more and more? One of the elements that we do a good job with, by the way, out of these, are those, Muharram and Safar comes around. Yes? We do a good job with there. But that's the only one we do a good job with. Or one of the rare ones we do a good job with, right? So people say, okay, we're going to have a house majlis. The kids are going to, that's building culture. So we do a good job with that one, yeah? That one we do a very good job with, alhamdulillah. But we have to also look at all of these other elements too. Yes? Good question. Any other questions on this topic or any other topics? All right. Yes, go for it.
I feel like this is just me like simulating. If you were able to kind of go 1 through 10 and really incorporate that, how would you not like arrive to the conclusion though that you're almost like you associate with this identity so much to the point that all the other identities are almost losing their emphasis. So how do you like resolve that personal trauma?
Which identity are you emphasizing too much? The religious identity.
Yeah. You feel like you'll lose yourself so much in religion that you won't be able to.
No, if you do it in a moderate way, that'll never happen. If you do it in an extreme way, right? So I'll give you guys this example. Usually people who, sometimes, some people who embrace the faith, right? And they're very new. Sometimes they go through a phase like that, okay? Or for example, people who go to the Hawza seminary, the first couple years they go through a phase like this, where like, everything else is shut it down. Like, we're not doing this, right? That's an extreme, you come out of that phase. Okay, but when I come out of that phase, then if I have a moderate approach, that's never really gonna happen. At the end of the day, I work here. My 9 to 5, I'm talking to John and Jennifer. So the non-religious side is always gonna be there. Yeah, so you don't have to really worry about that too much. Yes. Yeah.
Like this is not enough in your life. How do you know? Like, what's that?
Either I'm engaging in haram, or when it comes to the kids, I have to constantly, that's a very good question. How do I know I'm not building that religious identity for my children? This is the sign. Either we're doing haram in the house, which happens sometimes, okay? Oh, we're gonna go to this concert together, right? And this haram concert. Okay, so that's a problem. Or if I find myself constantly dragging the kids to everything, this is a sign that that Islamic identity needs to be enhanced even more. You understand what I'm saying? Like, of course, no 10-year-old likes to go to Sunday school on a Sunday. Okay, we understand this, okay? But there's a difference between, let's go, versus, oh no, Baba, you do have to go. The second one is okay. But the first one where every single time I'm pushing him and pulling him and it's a fight every single time, that means that Islamic practice is not the default around him. So I put him in a non-Islamic, environment, and then I'm trying to pull him out of that environment all the time. So if I have to pull and push and argue and fight over every little thing, that shows my child's Islamic atmosphere needs to be emphasized. Yeah, that's a really good question. If you're doing your wajibat and then you're doing a little bit of mustahabbat too, you're fine. Don't worry. Yes. Yeah. All right, any other questions? I know you guys have questions. Just put your hand up. We'll go for it. Yes.
So, the story of Musa and Khidr, where Prophet Musa went and
Yes.
he did a few things.
Yes.
Hazrat Khidr, at one point killed the child, right?
Yes.
So if the child had not committed a crime,
Yes.
but we also know like morally knew that Ibn Mujib should have killed him.
Yes. Yes.
So was the rule different for Khidr at that time, or?
Yes, exactly. So the question is, why did Khidr, the Quran says, basically Khidr used to strike preemptively. Yes? He did that with a number of different things. So the question is, why was Khidr doing that? So Khidr was basically God's secret agent. Didn't play by the rules. Imam Ali was God's official agent. Yes? So he had to do what? play by the rules because he was in a position where people were learning from him. So he had to go by the rules to demonstrate those rules, yes? Khidr, he didn't have a ummah. There weren't thousands of people looking at what Khidr was doing. No, no, he was a secret agent of God. God would tell him, go and do this. So imagine you replace him with an angel. Same thing. So yes, the rules were completely different between Imam Ali and Khidr, or the prophets and Khidr. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So the knowledge of the Ahl Bayt, guys, there's like 10 different opinions on this. Okay, I'm not going to go through them, don't worry. One opinion is the Ahl Bayt know everything at all times. One opinion is that the Ahl Bayt know when Allah tells them. One opinion is that whenever they need to know something, they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and God tells them. One opinion is that they have very special books that they look within. In those books, there is knowledge of everything that will happen in the future. One opinion is at least 5, yes? One opinion is that no, they don't have these types of knowledge, okay? And there is minority opinion, not the mainstream opinion in our school of thought. So even the knowledge of the Ahl Bayt, there's big debate. But to answer your question, if Imam Ali knew, why did he allow this? So God is telling him. So why are things haram? Because God tells you that they're haram. Now this one, he's telling you, no, you have to go towards it. So that wouldn't be a problem either. And if he didn't know, then the question is, taken care of anyway. So either way, it shouldn't be a problem. Yes. Yes. Yeah, but that still doesn't answer the question, though. Still doesn't answer the question. All right, any more questions? Any more questions before I go to him?
I mean, I feel like I'm asking a lot, so I don't want to hog.
Yeah, I just want to see if anyone else has any other questions. All right, go for it.
One of the other things that I'm really worried about, at least when it comes to when we have to do all the legal activities, is I've already run into situations where stuff that I learned from you when I was a kid ended up being wrong or askew or something. And I've been in the case where I have to tell my brothers or other people information and then have to get to that precipice where I have to kind of admit maybe I don't know. But for your kids and your family, especially since you're the one who needs to seem like they know, how do you handle those kinds of things?
Listen, if you don't know, one of the best things you can do for your kids is say in front of them, I don't know. We have to go ask Molana. I mean, whoever, right? That's an amazing thing you can do for your kids. Let your kids understand you don't know everything, and we have to go ask. Okay? So a parent is not expected to know everything. A parent is expected to place their child in a position where they have a place to go and find the answer to that question. So that's going to happen all the time. Things going to happen, and you're not going to know what to do. So you say, okay, well, we have to go ask about this. We have to go figure it out. Yeah. Yes. All right. So we'll wrap up, inshallah. We'll socialize. I think, what time is dinner, by the way? 8:30? All right. Okay, so that's good then, inshallah. So we'll socialize, inshallah. We'll pull the divider up, and the sisters can hang out on this side. Brothers will hang out on this side. And then I'll stay around for just a couple minutes in case anyone else has any other questions. Loud salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum, can everyone hear me? Whenever you guys registered, you should have gotten a QR code sent to you from an email. If you guys could have that open so we can have a speedy assembly line of the food grab. I don't know how to say it. Awesome, thank you.
You can eat here, but no tea. For tea, you have to go in the cafeteria, okay? So you can eat your gyros here, but for tea, you have to go in the cafe. You can eat your food here, tea in the cafe.